My sister announced her pregnancy at my engagement party, then smirked and said, "Sorry, guess I stole the spotlight again." Everyone laughed except me and my fiancé. The very next day, we sent out a very different kind of save the date. When she saw what it said, she called me in rage, yelling at the top of her lungs. You know that feeling when you just know something bad is about to happen? Not a life-threatening, movie-style kind of bad, but a deeply personal, soul-crushing, here we go again kind of bad. I had that feeling a year ago, on what was supposed to be one of the happiest nights of my life. My sister, Alara, has always been the star of our family. The kind of person who walks into a room and the energy shifts. A gravitational pull so strong that every eye, every ear, every thought is suddenly focused on her. It was a natural talent, really. She never had to work for it. It was just a part of who she was. She was funny, charming, and effortlessly beautiful. She was also a black hole of attention. And I, Sarah, was the satellite that had learned over 3 decades to orbit at a safe and silent distance. From my 7th birthday party, where she fell and broke her arm just as I was about to blow out my candles, to my high school graduation, where she tearfully announced she was breaking up with her boyfriend, right before I was called to the stage, Alara had a knack for turning every major life event into a chapter of her own story. It was never malicious, according to her. It was always an accident, a coincidence, a matter of bad timing. And my parents, God love them, always bought it. "Your sister didn't mean to, honey," my mom would say, squeezing my hand as I choked back tears. "She just has a lot going on. You're the bigger person, you understand." And so I did. For years, I played my part as the bigger person, the understanding sister, the quiet orbit to her dazzling star. But on that night, the night of my engagement party, something was different. My fiancé Chris and I had been together for 6 years. He was the calm to my storm, the quiet strength that made me feel seen, not just as Alara's sister, but as a person in my own right. The party was everything I had ever wanted. Simple, intimate, with our closest friends and family at a beautiful little rooftop bar overlooking the city skyline. Fairy lights twinkled, a soft jazz band played, and the air was filled with the low hum of genuine happiness. Chris's arm was around my waist, his thumb tracing lazy circles on my skin as we listened to my best friend Maya give her speech. Maya had been with me through thick and thin, and her voice was filled with genuine emotion as she talked about how much she loved seeing me so happy. It was a perfect moment, a tiny, precious bubble of pure joy. And that's when I saw it. Alara, who had been sitting with her husband, Liam, at a table near the back, suddenly put down her wine glass and began to stand. It wasn't a sudden, panicked stand. It was a slow, deliberate rise. She smoothed down the front of her red silk dress and caught the eye of my mom, who gave her a hesitant, confused smile. The jazz music was still playing softly, but a strange, prickly silence began to creep into the room. My own stomach tightened into a cold, hard knot. It was a feeling I knew all too well, the first tremor before a devastating earthquake. I squeezed Chris's hand, and he looked down at me, a question in his eyes. "What's wrong?" he mouthed. I just shook my head, my eyes fixed on my sister. She was now standing fully, a wide, radiant smile on her face. A few people looked up, Maya's voice trailing off for a moment. This was it. The moment was about to be stolen. I could feel it in my bones. Maya cleared her throat and tried to continue. And I've never seen two people more perfect for each other, but it was too late. The magnetic pull had already taken hold. Alara held up her hand, not in a wave, but in a gesture that politely, yet firmly, demanded attention. "Excuse me, everyone," she said, her voice carrying across the quiet room. "I'm so sorry to interrupt. Maya, that was a beautiful speech." She paused, letting the silence hang in the air, a pro at creating suspense. My mom gave her a frantic, almost pleading look, but Alara ignored it. She looked at me, our eyes meeting across the room. There was a glimmer there, a spark of something I couldn't quite place, but it sent a shiver down my spine. It wasn't triumph, not yet. It was anticipation. "I just wanted to share some incredible news," she continued, her hands moving to cradle her stomach. "Liam and I are so excited to announce that we're expecting our first baby!" A wave of sound erupted, a few gasps, then a thunderous chorus of cheers and applause. Everyone, and I mean everyone, immediately forgot about me, about Chris, about the engagement, about Maya's speech. They rushed toward Alara and Liam, embracing them, shouting congratulations, asking questions about due dates and baby names. It was a beautiful moment, the kind of moment you dream of when you find out you're going to be a parent. and she had just dropped it, a perfectly shaped bomb, directly into the middle of my night. Chris's hand on my back was the only thing keeping me from sinking into the floor. I watched as my own parents, the same parents who had just been smiling proudly at me, hurried over to hug Alara, their faces glowing with a kind of joy I hadn't seen tonight. My dad even gave her a little tearful pat on the shoulder. A few minutes later, after the initial storm of excitement had settled, Alara made her way over to me. She was still beaming, her face flushed with the attention. My parents, who had followed her, stood a few feet away, watching us with a mix of pride and apprehension. Alara leaned in, her voice a low, theatrical whisper meant only for me. She squeezed my arm, a gesture that was supposed to be sisterly, but felt more like a tight grip. "I'm so sorry, Sarah," she said, but her eyes were laughing. "I guess I just stole the spotlight again." And then she smirked, not a big, evil smirk. Just a small, barely there curl of the lip. Just enough for me to know. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't bad timing. This was a calculated move. A tactical strike. She knew exactly what she was doing. A few people nearby heard her and chuckled, thinking it was a cute, self-deprecating joke. "Oh, Alara, you!" someone said playfully. But Chris and I didn't laugh. We just stood there, frozen. I felt a hot, prickling sensation behind my eyes. The knot in my stomach was now a hard, cold rock. All the air was gone from the room. I felt humiliated, exposed, and utterly alone. I looked at Chris, his jaw tight, his eyes filled with a furious protectiveness. He was about to say something, I could see it. I squeezed his hand, a silent plea. Don't make a scene. We had already lost the night. I wasn't going to let her have the satisfaction of a public screaming match, too. I pulled my hand from his and started to walk away, a quiet retreat. I could hear my mom's voice a little too loud, trying to cover the awkward silence. "Honey, where are you going?" I didn't answer. I just pushed through the crowd, past the congratulations and the champagne flutes, past the happy faces that were no longer focused on me, and out into the cool night air. I walked until I was in the elevator, tears streaming down my face. I could hear the muffled sounds of the party fading away, replaced by the hollow silence of the elevator car. I don't know how long I sat on a bench outside the building, but it felt like an eternity. The initial wave of shock and hurt had subsided, replaced by a cold, burning clarity. I replayed every single memory of Alara stealing my thunder, from my kindergarten graduation to my first job promotion, when she announced she was moving across the country right as I was about to toast to my success. This was the final straw. It wasn't an isolated incident, it was a pattern of behavior that had defined my life. I thought back to my college acceptance party. I had worked tirelessly for years to get into my dream university, a top-tier school with a highly competitive program. My parents were so proud. They had even hung a banner in the living room. As we were about to cut the cake, Alara, who was at a different, less prestigious school, stood up and announced she was dropping out to pursue her true passion as a travel blogger. The banner suddenly felt heavy, my achievement hollow. The entire conversation shifted to her bold, risky, and courageous choice, and my academic success was reduced to a footnote. I remembered my high school graduation. I was the valedictorian, and as I stood on the stage, looking out at the crowd, my parents beaming in the front row, I saw Alara get out of her seat, her face streaked with dramatic tears. She walked to the back of the auditorium, where my mom followed her, whispering frantically. The whole time I gave my speech, I could feel a hum of distraction in the crowd, their attention divided between my words and the scene my sister was creating. Then there was the time I got a huge promotion at my first real job, the one I had poured my heart and soul into. My parents organized a celebratory dinner. Just as I was about to stand up and give a toast about how proud I was of my hard work, Alara, who was back from a trip and feeling unfulfilled, tearfully announced she was breaking up with her long-term boyfriend and moving to a new city to find herself. My career milestone was completely eclipsed by her dramatic, impulsive decision, and the rest of the night was spent consoling her. These moments, and so many others like them, had taught me to shrink, to make myself smaller, to always be ready for the inevitable shift in attention. I had always been the one to back down, the one to let it go, the one to say, "It's fine, it's not a big deal." I was the bigger person. I had played that role for so long that I didn't even know who I was without it. But this time, it was different. This was my engagement party. This was the first step toward building a life with a man who truly loved me. A man who saw me for who I was, not just as Alara's sidekick. She had tried to steal that too. She had tried to make this moment about her, to remind me that she was, and always would be, the main character. Suddenly, a new feeling took hold. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't even anger. It was a cold, hard, decisive resolve. I was done. I was done being the bigger person. I was done letting her get away with it. I was done giving her a stage to stand on. Chris found me a few minutes later. He sat down next to me and wrapped his arm around my shoulders. He didn't say a word, just held me as I cried. After a while, I looked up at him, my eyes still wet. "She always does this," I whispered, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. "I know," he said, his voice quiet and firm. "I know she does." He had seen it too. He had been a witness to years of this quiet, subtle cruelty. And in that moment, in his unwavering presence, I felt a spark of hope. I wasn't alone. I took a deep breath, the cold night air filling my lungs. I felt a shift inside of me, a fundamental change in my wiring. The quiet, understanding sister was gone. In her place was something new, something colder and more determined. I turned to Chris and looked him square in the eye. "Are you ready to be a little bit awful?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He didn't hesitate. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "I'm ready to be as awful as you need me to be," he said. And in that moment, I knew we were a team. I knew he had my back, and that together, we could finally write our own story. Our new plan started the next day. We sat at my kitchen table, a laptop open between us. The old wedding plans, the big traditional wedding we had been planning for months, were wiped clean. We talked about what we really wanted. Not a big party for a crowd of people, but a celebration of our love. A simple, beautiful day that was just about us. And in a moment of pure, unadulterated mischievousness, we decided that the best revenge wasn't loud and public, but quiet and effective. We designed a new Save the Date card. It was a beautiful, simple design with a picture of us and a single line of text. "We're getting married in Hawaii." It had the new date, the new location, but nothing more. No details about the ceremony, no registry information, no RSVPs. It was a save the date for a party that wasn't a party, a wedding that was a secret. We sent it to all of our guests from the original list. All of them. Except one. We didn't send one to Alara. The days that followed were a strange mixture of calm and anticipation. It was a quiet kind of peace, the peace you feel before a huge storm. We didn't talk to anyone about our new plans. We simply went about our business, answering questions about the engagement party with a calm, neutral tone. It was nice, we'd say. Ilara's news was so exciting. It was a perfect lie, a lie of omission that let them fill in the blanks with their own assumptions. I could feel Ilara's antenna going up. The lack of detailed information about the wedding was a red flag for her. She was used to being in the loop, to being consulted, to having a say in every family matter. The silence from my end was a foreign concept to her, a vacuum she felt compelled to fill. A week later, she started. First, it was a subtle Instagram post, an ultrasound photo, with a caption that read, "So excited for our little miracle. It's so special to be able to share this joy with our family." A week after that, another post. A picture of her and Liam, her hand on her stomach, tagged at the maternity section of a store. Each post was a gentle nudge, a little reminder that she was the one with the big news, the one who was still the center of attention. She was trying to get a reaction, to get me to comment, to make it all about her again. I just scrolled past, a serene smile on my face. And then, the phone call came. I saw her name pop up on my phone, and I felt a small thrill, a spark of the mischievousness that had taken hold of me the night of the party. I took a deep breath and answered. "Hello," I said, my voice calm, almost unnaturally so. "Hi." "Oh my gosh, I've been trying to get a hold of you," she said, her voice a little too high, a little too strained. "I just realized I never got the new wedding details." "Did you change the date?" I saw a picture of a save the date on Maya's Instagram, but the details were all blurry and it was deleted so fast. What's going on? I took a sip of my coffee, letting the silence hang in the air for a moment. This was my moment. This was my stage. "What do you mean?" I said, feigning confusion. "What new wedding details?" "The save the date. You guys sent out a new one. Everyone got one but me," she said, her voice rising in a panicked crescendo. "Mom said she got one, but she said it was just a picture and she was confused. Is something wrong?" "Alara," I said, my voice still as calm as a placid lake. "There's nothing wrong. We're getting married in Hawaii. I thought you would know that." I didn't say that I had sent her one. I didn't say that I hadn't. I just let the words hang there, letting her fill in the blanks with her own frantic thoughts. The silence on the other end of the line was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. I could almost hear her brain whirring, trying to figure out if she had missed an email, a text message, a conversation. The possibility that she, the main character, had been intentionally left out was so unthinkable to her that she couldn't even process it. I don't understand, she finally said, her voice small and shaky. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you send me a save the date? I took another long, slow sip of my coffee. Alara, I said, I have to go. I'm busy. I'll talk to you later. And I hung up. I didn't get angry. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just left her with the silence. The next day, we hosted a small get-together with our close family and a few of our friends who were also going to Hawaii. My mom was there, looking flustered and confused. My dad was there, looking nervous and gently patting her arm, trying to calm her down. He didn't say much, but his silence spoke volumes, and my sister, of course, was not. We waited until everyone had their drinks and was settled in. Then, Chris and I stood up, his arm around my waist, just like he had been at the engagement party. The room went quiet, but this time, it was a happy, expectant kind of quiet. Thank you all for being here tonight, Chris began, a warm smile on his face. We wanted to officially announce our wedding plans. I took a deep breath and looked at all of their faces. Maya was smiling, my parents were watching nervously, and I could feel a quiet sense of triumph building inside of me. We're not going to have a big wedding, I said. We've decided to elope, just the two of us, a handful of our closest friends and family, and a small, beautiful ceremony in Hawaii. A few people gasped. A few cheered. It was exactly the reaction we had wanted. My mom, however, was not one of them. But what about Alara? She said, her voice laced with a genuine, desperate confusion. Why isn't she here? Why didn't she get a save the date? And that's when I said it. The words that had been building inside me for weeks. The sentence that had been a silent mantra in my head. I looked my mother dead in the eye, and for the first time in my life, I didn't back down. Because this isn't about her, I said, my voice clear and firm. This is about us. The room fell silent. My mother's mouth hung open, speechless. Chris squeezed my hand, a silent signal of pride and support. I had done it. I had finally put up the boundary, and for the first time in my life, it felt like she had nowhere to go. I got home that night to a voicemail from Alara. The message was long, dramatic, and filled with a kind of self-pity that I had been hearing my entire life. I can't believe you would do this, she sobbed into the phone. This is my brother-in-law's wedding, and I'm not even invited? My own sister's wedding? I'm pregnant. I'm supposed to be celebrating, not worrying about being excluded. I just wanted to be a part of your life, to share in your happiness, and you just shut me out. Her voice broke, and I could hear her fake theatrical sobs. You're so cruel. I can't believe you would do this to your own family, to your own sister. I listened to the entire voicemail, from the dramatic opening to the quiet, gasping end, and as I listened, something incredible happened. I didn't get angry. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel the familiar sting of her words. I just felt a profound sense of relief. It was in that voicemail that I finally saw her for what she was. Not a malicious villain, but a deeply insecure person who believed that the only way to be loved was to be the center of attention. She wasn't just stealing the spotlight. She was desperately trying to create one for herself, even if it meant tearing down everyone around her. She wasn't a bad person. She was just a very, very broken one. And in that moment, I realized that her sadness wasn't about me. It was about her. And in that realization, all the anger, all the resentment, all the hurt I had been carrying for years just melted away. It was a weight I didn't even know I was carrying, and in that moment, it was gone. The wedding in Hawaii was everything I had dreamed of. The sun was warm, the wine was flowing, and the air was filled with a sense of pure, unadulterated peace. There was no drama, no competition, no need to worry about who was going to steal the show. There was just me and Chris, and a small group of people who loved us for who we were, not for the role we played. When Chris said his vows, he looked at me with a depth of love that took my breath away. I love your laughter, your kindness, your brilliance, he said, his voice thick with emotion. But most of all, I love your silence. You are the first silence I've ever trusted. And in that moment, I knew exactly what he meant. He wasn't talking about the absence of noise. He was talking about the absence of drama. The absence of the kind of chaos that had always followed me. He was talking about the quiet, solid truth of our love, and it was the most beautiful thing I had ever heard. I got back from our honeymoon to find Alara's new social media campaign in full swing. She had posted a series of throwback photos of us from when we were younger, with captions like, "Thinking of my sister today." Family is so important, and sometimes you have to let people go, even when it hurts. Holding on to our memories. She was trying to paint herself as the innocent, heartbroken sister, the one who had been cruelly excluded. She was trying to rewrite the narrative. But I wasn't playing her game anymore. Instead of engaging, instead of getting angry or defensive, I did something different. I filmed the video, just me, sitting in my kitchen, talking to the camera. I didn't mention her name. I didn't mention the wedding. I just read from my old journal, from the entries I had written over the years about the times I had been overshadowed. I used to write things like this in my journal, I said, my voice calm and even. Ilara was amazing at my graduation today. I wish I could be more like her. And I felt so invisible at the family dinner tonight. I wonder if anyone would notice if I just disappeared. For years, I believed that I was the problem, that I wasn't enough, that my light just wasn't as bright as hers. But I've come to realize that some people don't want to share the spotlight. They need it all for themselves. And the only way to win that game is to stop playing. The video went viral. I didn't need to name her. The people who knew us, the people who had been at the party, they knew. They saw the truth in my words. And for the first time, it wasn't about her. It was about me. It was about my story. A few weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. It was a long, flowery, handwritten apology from Ilara. I'm so sorry for everything, she wrote. I never meant to hurt you. I've been so focused on my pregnancy, I haven't been myself. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. I read the letter once, and then I put it in my drawer, a small, quiet smile on my face. She hadn't written it for me. She had written it for herself. It was a way for her to feel like she had done the right thing, to feel like she was the bigger person, to absolve herself of the blame. But I knew the truth. And the truth was, she hadn't changed. But I had. I had stopped being angry. I had stopped being hurt. I had stopped feeling the need to get even. The real revenge wasn't in a public shaming, or a shouting match, or a dramatic confrontation. The real revenge was my peace, my serenity, the quiet, beautiful life I was building with Chris. My wedding was my silent statement. My journal video was my quiet declaration. My letter was my final, peaceful goodbye to the person I used to be. I finally found the words to describe it all in an anonymous essay I wrote online, titled, My Sister Always Stole the Spotlight Until I Stopped Building the Stage. It wasn't about her anymore. It was about me. It was about the moment I finally took back control of my own life. It was about finding my own light, even in the shadows. I stopped playing a part in a play I never auditioned for, and the silence, for the first time, felt like home.